The message I almost deleted. The message arrived at 2:17 a.m. I remember the time because I was staring at the clock, counting the seconds between breaths, trying to convince myself that sleep would come if I stayed still long enough. It didn't. My phone buzzed softly on the nightstand, the screen lighting up the dark room with a pale blue glow. For a moment I ignored it. Nobody ever texted me that late anymore. Not since my life had quietly collapsed into a routine of work, silence, and pretending I was fine. Another buzz. Annoyed, I reached over, squinting as I unlocked the screen. The message was from an unknown number. "I don't think you realize this yet, but your life is about to change." I laughed. A short, tired breath through my nose. Spam. Scam. Some automated nonsense meant to trick me into clicking a link or sending money I didn't have. My thumb hovered over the delete button. That's when the next message came through. "I'm sorry for contacting you like this. But if I don't say something now, I don't think I ever will." Something about that line made my chest tighten. It didn't sound like a robot. It sounded like someone afraid. I sat up in bed, pulling the thin blanket around my shoulders. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator in the next room. I was alone, had been for a long time, but suddenly it didn't feel that way. I typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared almost immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Whoever it was, they were hesitating. "My name is Daniel. You don't know me. At least not really." My heart skipped. I scanned my memory. Coworkers. Old classmates. Clients. Exes. Nothing. I typed again. "I think you have the wrong number." The reply came slower this time. "I don't. I've been staring at your contact for 3 years, trying to figure out if I had the right to message you." 3 years. My fingers went cold. "How did you get my number?" I asked. A pause. Longer now. Then, "Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow. You saved my life once, and you never knew it." I stared at the screen, my breath shallow, my pulse suddenly loud in my ears. People say things like that online all the time. Exaggerations. Emotional bait. But this didn't feel like that. "I think you're mistaken," I typed, though my hands were shaking. Another pause. Then the message that changed everything. October 12th. Mercy Hospital. "You were wearing a gray sweater, and you stayed with me even after your shift ended." The room seemed to tilt. I remembered that night. I had been working late at the hospital, back when I was still a nursing assistant, before burnout hollowed me out. A man had been brought into the ER after a car accident. No family, no friends, just fear in his eyes and pain he couldn't hide. I'd sat with him longer than I was supposed to, held his hand when he started to panic, talked about nothing and everything until he finally fell asleep. I never saw him again, or so I thought. My phone buzzed again. "You told me something I didn't understand at the time," Daniel wrote. "You said, even if today feels unbearable, it doesn't get to decide the rest of your life." My throat closed. I had said that. I used to say things like that before life taught me how fragile words could be. "I was planning to end my life that night," the message continued. "But you stayed. And because you stayed, I didn't." I dropped the phone onto the bed. The air felt thick, hard to breathe. My chest ached in a way I didn't recognize. I hadn't saved anyone. I couldn't even save myself. The past few years had been brutal. After leaving the hospital, I bounced between jobs, lost my mother, ended a long relationship that had drained me of whatever confidence I had left. I lived alone in a 1-bedroom apartment that echoed with the sound of my own disappointment. And now someone was telling me I mattered. I picked the phone back up. "Why are you messaging me now?" I asked. This time the reply took several minutes. I imagined Daniel staring at his screen somewhere else in the city, or maybe somewhere far away, wondering if he'd already said too much. Finally, "Because I'm standing at a crossroads," he wrote. And I realized the person who unknowingly gave me the courage to live might be the only one who understands what it means to feel lost and still keep going. I swallowed hard. "You don't know anything about my life," I typed. The response came gently. "I know enough. People who give light like you did usually do it while standing in the dark themselves." That was the moment something inside me cracked. Not loudly, not all at once, just enough to let something new seep in. We talked until the sky outside my window began to lighten. About his recovery, about how he'd gone back to school, about how he now worked as a counselor for people in crisis, about how he'd never forgotten me. I didn't tell him much about myself. Not yet. I wasn't ready to peel back those layers. But when the sun rose, I realized something startling. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. Before we said goodnight or good morning, Daniel sent one last message. "I don't expect anything from you," he wrote. "But if you ever want coffee, I'd like to thank you in person." I stared at the words. A simple invitation. A simple message. And somehow it felt like the beginning of something I couldn't yet name. I typed back, "Coffee would be nice." I didn't know it then, but that decision, that one small reply, was the first step into a life I never imagined for myself. And it all started with a message I almost deleted. The coffee that opened old doors. I almost canceled. That's the part people don't talk about when they tell stories like this. The hesitation, the way fear disguises itself as practicality. I stood in my kitchen the morning of our coffee date, staring at my reflection in the microwave door, convincing myself I was too busy, too tired, too awkward for this. What if he didn't recognize me? What if he did? And realized I wasn't the calm, confident woman he remembered from a hospital bed 3 years ago. What if this meeting cracked open something I'd spent years carefully sealing shut? I checked my phone again. No new messages. Daniel had suggested a small cafe downtown, one I used to walk past on my way to work back when I still believed my life was headed somewhere meaningful. I told myself I was only going for coffee. 30 minutes. 1 cup. Polite conversation. Closure. I grabbed my coat anyway. The cafe was warm and softly lit, the smell of roasted beans wrapping around me like a memory I couldn't quite place. I hesitated at the door, my hand on the handle, scanning the room. Then I saw him. He was sitting at a corner table near the window, both hands wrapped around a mug, staring out at the street like he was bracing himself. He looked steady, healthier than the man I remembered. His posture was straighter, his face fuller, but there was something familiar in the way his shoulders carried tension, like he was always ready to apologize for taking up space. He looked up. Our eyes met, and he smiled, not wide, not forced, just honest. Relieved. "You came," he said as I approached. "So did you," I replied, my voice thinner than I wanted it to be. We laughed awkwardly. Sat down. The barista came over, and I ordered my usual without thinking. Daniel noticed. "You still drink it the same way," he said. I blinked. "You remember that? You asked for almond milk and 2 sugars, he said gently. "You said the hospital coffee tasted like regret." I covered my mouth, laughing despite myself. "I did not." "You absolutely did." Something in my chest loosened. For a few moments we talked about ordinary things. Work. Weather. The cafe's terrible music playlist. It felt strangely easy, like picking up a conversation that had been paused, not ended. Then he took a breath. "I want to say this properly," Daniel said. "Without dramatizing. Without putting anything on you." I nodded, already knowing what was coming. "If you hadn't stayed with me that night," he continued, "I wouldn't be here. And I don't mean that metaphorically." My throat tightened. I stared at my coffee. "I didn't do anything special," I said. "You did something rare," he corrected. "You treated me like I mattered when I didn't believe I did." I shook my head. "You don't know me. I'm not that person anymore." Daniel leaned back slightly, studying me. Not in a judgmental way, but with curiosity. "Tell me, he said softly, and without planning to, I did. I told him about leaving the hospital, about how caring for people who were breaking had slowly broken me too, about my mother's illness and how being strong for everyone else had left no strength for myself, about the relationship that ended not with a fight, but with exhaustion so deep it felt like grief. I told him how invisible I felt most days, how mornings felt heavier than nights, how sometimes I wondered if my life had peaked in moments no one even remembered. Daniel didn't interrupt. He didn't offer solutions. He didn't rush to reassure me. He just listened. When I finished, my hands were trembling. I think, he said carefully, that you forgot how much power there is in simply staying. I looked up. Staying. You stayed with me, he said, and you're still here, even when it's hard, even when it feels pointless. I let out a shaky breath. Some days I don't know why. That's okay, he said. Purpose doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sneaks back in through side doors. We sat in silence for a moment, watching people pass outside the window. Couples, parents, someone laughing into their phone. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. Okay. Why did you stay with me that night? He asked. I thought back. The fluorescent lights, the beeping monitors, the way his fear had filled the room. I don't know, I said honestly. I think I saw myself in you. Daniel nodded slowly. That's what I thought. He told me then about his life after the accident, the therapy, the slow rebuilding, the guilt of surviving when he'd wanted to disappear, the moment he decided to study counseling, not because he had all the answers, but because he knew what it felt like to need someone to stay. I tell my clients something now, he said. Something you taught me. What's that? That pain doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And humans are allowed to need each other. The words settled deep inside me. We stayed longer than 30 minutes. We ordered another coffee. Then pastries we didn't really want but didn't want the conversation to end. When it was time to leave, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Reluctance. At the door, Daniel hesitated. I don't want to overstep, he said, but I'd like to see you again. Not because I owe you, but because I like who you are. I smiled, surprised at how easily it came. I'd like that, I said. That night, back in my apartment, the silence felt different. Less heavy, less final. I checked my phone once more before bed. A new message from Daniel. Thank you for staying again today. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back. Thank you for reminding me why I ever did. I went to sleep with a strange warmth in my chest, one that whispered, gently but persistently, that maybe my story wasn't over yet. And I had no idea how much that message, and the ones still to come, were about to change everything. The truth that undid me. Change doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It arrives quietly, through routines that feel lighter, mornings that don't sting as much, laughter that surprises you because you forgot you were still capable of it. That's how it started with Daniel. We met for coffee again, then lunch, then walks where we talked about everything except the parts of ourselves we were afraid to name. He never pushed, never rushed. He had this way of giving space that didn't feel like distance. For the first time in years, I felt seen without feeling examined, and that terrified me. One evening, about 2 months after our first coffee, Daniel invited me to his apartment. Nothing dramatic, just takeout and a movie, he said. Something simple. I almost said no. Not because I didn't want to go, but because I did. His place was modest and clean, filled with warm light and little signs of life. Books stacked unevenly on a shelf, a plant leaning toward the window, framed photos that looked chosen, not staged. We ate on the couch, knees barely touching. Halfway through the movie, neither of us was paying attention anymore. There was a pause. A long one. I need to tell you something, Daniel said. My stomach dropped. Okay, I replied, though every instinct screamed brace yourself. He turned to face me fully. Before I met you at the hospital, I wasn't just planning to end my life. I swallowed. Daniel, I need you to hear this, he said gently, because if we're going to keep building whatever this is, it can't be on a foundation of half-truths. I nodded, my chest tight. I caused the accident, he said. On purpose. The room went still. I got behind the wheel drunk, he continued, his voice steady but strained. I didn't care what happened to me. I didn't care who I hurt. I thought of the night I'd met him. The blood. The fear. The relief when he survived. And I hurt someone, he said. A woman in the other car. She lived. But she'll carry pain for the rest of her life because of me. My heart pounded. Do you still drink? No, he said quickly. I stopped that night. Rehab. Therapy. Accountability. I turned myself in. I searched his face. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve to know the whole person you're letting into your life, he said. And because I don't want you to put me on a pedestal. I was reckless. I was selfish. And I live with that every day. Tears blurred my vision. Not because I was afraid of him, but because I recognized the weight he carried. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he added. I just couldn't let you fall for a version of me that doesn't exist. I stood up abruptly, needing air, space, something solid. Daniel didn't stop me. I walked to the window, staring out at the city lights. My mind raced. Part of me wanted to run, to retreat into the safe numbness I'd perfected. Another part of me felt something else. Respect. How do you live with it? I asked quietly. With honesty, he said. And with the knowledge that I don't get to undo the past, but I do get to decide who I am moving forward. I turned back to him. I don't know what to say, I admitted. You don't have to say anything, he replied. Just don't disappear without letting me know. That night I went home alone. I didn't sleep. Memories surfaced of mistakes I'd made, people I'd hurt without meaning to, moments I wished I could rewind. Different circumstances, different scale, but the same human truth. None of us were clean. The next morning my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk about Daniel. My heart lurched. I stared at the screen, dread pooling in my stomach. Who is this? I typed. The reply came almost instantly. My name is Rachel. I'm the woman he hit. My hands went numb. He didn't know I found you, she continued. But I saw a photo of you together online. I need you to understand who he really is. My mind spiraled. He already told me. I typed, though I wasn't sure why. There was a pause. Then, he told you his version, she replied. I want to tell you mine. We met that afternoon. Rachel walked with a slight limp, her movements careful. She was younger than I expected, her eyes sharp but tired in a way I recognized. I'm not here to ruin his life, she said once we sat down. I'm here to make sure you don't lose yours. I listened as she spoke. About the surgeries, the chronic pain, the anger she'd carried for years. He apologized, she admitted. He took responsibility. He paid restitution. He changed. She looked at me steadily. But redemption doesn't erase consequences, she said. And loving someone like him means loving their past too. I nodded, tears slipping down my face. I don't know if I'm strong enough, I whispered. Rachel's expression softened. Strength isn't about never breaking, she said. It's about choosing what you're willing to carry. That night I sat alone in my apartment, Daniel's last words echoing in my head. I don't want you to put me on a pedestal. Neither of us belonged on one. The question was, could we stand on the same ground? My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. No matter what you decide, I'm grateful you came back into my life. I closed my eyes. The truth had undone me. But sometimes breaking is the only way to see what's real. And I knew whatever came next, my life was already changing in ways I couldn't undo. Choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. For 3 days, I didn't answer Daniel's messages. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because I didn't trust myself to speak without either breaking down or pretending everything was fine. Both felt dishonest. I went to work. I folded laundry. I washed dishes that didn't need washing. I did all the things people do when their minds are screaming but their lives demand normalcy. At night, I lay awake replaying Rachel's words. Redemption doesn't erase consequences. She was right. But neither did consequences erase humanity. On the 4th morning, I woke up with a dull ache behind my eyes and a clarity I hadn't expected. Running wouldn't protect me. It would only return me to the quiet loneliness I already knew how to survive. So I texted Daniel, "Can we talk tonight?" His reply came seconds later. "Yes. Anywhere. Anytime." We met at the same cafe where it had all begun. It felt intentional, like circling back to remind ourselves why we'd ever started. Daniel stood when he saw me. He didn't try to hug me. He didn't reach for my hand. He waited. "I spoke with Rachel," I said after we sat down. His face paled. "I understand if you don't want to see me anymore." I studied him, the tension in his jaw, the fear he wasn't trying to hide. "She told me things you didn't," I said. He nodded. "She had every right. And she told me things you did," I continued. "That you've changed. That you took responsibility. That you never tried to minimize the damage." His eyes filled with tears he didn't let fall. "I'm not asking you to be okay with what I did," he said quietly. "I'm asking you to decide whether the man I am now is someone you can trust." I took a deep breath. "I don't know what the future looks like," I said. "But I know I don't want a life built on fear of getting hurt. I've already lived that life." His breath hitched. "So," I continued, my voice shaking, "if we do this, we do it slowly. Honestly. With room for doubt and room for growth." Daniel nodded. "That's the only way I know how to live now." That night something shifted, not into certainty but into commitment. And commitment, I learned, isn't loud. It's showing up. Weeks turned into months. We built something careful and real. Some days were light. Inside jokes, shared meals, laughter that surprised us both. Other days were heavy, conversations about guilt, grief, and the kind of healing that doesn't follow a straight line. Daniel never asked me to carry his past for him, but he didn't hide it either. One evening, after a particularly hard day, I broke down in his arms. "I'm tired of being strong," I admitted. "You don't have to be strong with me," he said, holding me close. "Just present." No one had ever given me permission like that. Around that time I started volunteering again, first at a crisis hotline, then at the hospital once a week. Not as a savior. Not as someone with answers. Just as someone willing to stay. The first night back, I froze outside the ER doors, my heart racing. Daniel squeezed my hand. "You don't owe the world anything," he said. "But if being here reminds you who you are, then it's worth it." He was right. I didn't return as the woman I used to be. I returned as someone softer, wiser, less certain, and more alive. One night, months later, Daniel confessed something that startled me. "I used to think my life was a debt I'd never finish paying," he said. "Now I think it's a responsibility to live well." I smiled. "I used to think my purpose was gone," I replied. "Now I think it was just waiting for me to come back to myself." Our love wasn't perfect. It wasn't dramatic or effortless. It was intentional. And one evening, as we sat quietly on his balcony watching the city lights, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Thank you for staying." No name. No explanation. But I knew. I looked at Daniel, then at the phone. "Another message?" he asked. "Yes," I said softly. This one wasn't about changing my life. It was proof that it already had. How a simple message changed everything. Life, I realized, isn't defined by the big events alone. It's the quiet moments, the ones where a single decision, almost dismissed, can shift everything. For me, it had begun with a message at 2:17 a.m. A message I almost deleted. I think about that night often, how easily I could have let it pass, returned to my lonely routine pretending I didn't matter. Instead I stayed. I replied. I showed up. And it changed everything. Months passed. Daniel and I grew closer. Our bond forged not in grand gestures but in persistence, in vulnerability, in showing up for each other even when life was messy. I began volunteering regularly at the hospital, not as a nurse but as someone who could listen, who could stay with those who feared the darkness. Every time I did, I remembered Daniel's words. Even if today feels unbearable, it doesn't get to decide the rest of your life. And every time I said them aloud to someone, I said them to myself as well. One evening, as I walked home from the hospital, my phone buzzed. A new message. You don't know me, but I need to say thank you. You stayed with me once long ago, and it saved me. I wanted to tell you in person, but I can't find the courage. So this message will have to do. I froze. I recognized the number. It was Daniel. Not exactly Daniel, the words were too familiar, the weight too heavy. My chest tightened with recognition and disbelief. Then I realized, this wasn't him. This was someone else. Someone I had never met, but who had been watching, listening, waiting for a chance to tell me something I didn't even know I needed to hear. I smiled, my fingers trembling as I typed back. Thank you. Your words mean more than you know. The truth hit me. Sometimes the smallest gestures ripple farther than we imagine. A moment of care. A word spoken when no one is listening. A hand held in darkness. That night, I sat with Daniel on the balcony. The city lights shimmered below us, familiar and strange. Do you ever think about that message? I asked. The one that started all this? He replied softly. I nodded. I do, he said. Every day. It's crazy to think one simple act, one night of staying, could lead us here. I smiled. It's not crazy. It's human. We sat in silence, but it was a quiet filled with understanding. We didn't need to say more. The truth was written in the lives we had rebuilt, in the love we had chosen, in the hope we carried forward. In the following weeks, I received another message, from someone I hadn't met, from someone who had been changed by a ripple I had unknowingly created years ago. Each message reminded me that our actions matter, that the smallest kindnesses can echo through lives in ways we can't see. I started keeping a journal again, something I hadn't done since my mother passed. Each entry was simple, each entry a testament to moments of care, to small choices, to the ways lives intersect without warning. And I realized the pattern. Life doesn't hand us grand epiphanies. It hands us moments. Tiny, fragile, seemingly insignificant. Moments like staying a few extra minutes when someone is afraid, saying something kind when words feel useless, answering a message you almost delete. These are the moments that can bend the trajectory of lives. They can save people. They can open doors you didn't know existed. I looked at Daniel that night and I understood fully. He had been changed by my choice. And I had been changed by his presence. By staying, we had rewritten ourselves. By showing up, we had found a life worth living. By a single message, we had learned that human connection is not about perfection. It's about courage. Courage to be seen. Courage to listen. Courage to respond. Months turned into a year. We continued building a life that wasn't flawless but was ours. Rooted in honesty, tempered with patience, and filled with gratitude. I became closer to the hospital again, not as a worker burdened with duty, but as a person who knew the immense value of staying, listening, and caring. One evening, Daniel and I sat down with cups of tea. He reached for my hand. I never imagined a text could change my life, he said quietly. I smiled. Neither did I. But it did. And I'll never forget it. The real lesson I realized was this: change doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it comes quietly, almost invisibly, in a single message, a single act of presence, a single decision to stay instead of leaving. That night, I typed one last message, not to Daniel, not to anyone I knew, but to the universe, the life I was living now. Thank you for the moments I almost overlooked. And with that, I finally understood that life-changing moments are rarely about grand gestures. They are about the small human acts that remind us of our capacity to impact one another. One simple message had saved a life, restored another, and reminded me. Sometimes the simplest choices are the ones that shape eternity. I leaned back against Daniel, watching the city lights, feeling a quiet gratitude that words cannot capture. And I knew in my heart that life would never be the same, and that I wouldn't want it any other way.